Hello learners, I am Basanti Pradhan from STRIDE Staff Training Research Institute of Distance Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University. I welcome you all to this session pertaining to a very interesting topic, that is instructional design for e-learning. Students, please listen that whenever we talk about the instructional design for e-learning, then we have to think about different components pertaining to this title. So, be clear that what this title says. So, for this we can see that educational communication technologies play an important role in instructional system of open and distance learning or ODL. So, whenever we say what are those communication technologies related to education or distance education which we can use for designing multimedia package. So, a multimedia packages which are used for our students are prepared after incorporating different technologies. These technologies are print, audio programs, video programs, interactive radio counseling, one-way video, two-way audio, teleconferencing and web-based content delivery. So, dear learners, remember these components or these mediums which are more important for our e-learning, designing e-learning courses also. That's why at the beginning only we are focusing on what are the media we are using to design e-learning courses or programs. Different instructional factors and institutional learning environment demands have led to design e-learning courses or programs to provide educational opportunities to all students anywhere, anytime, anyone can go through the online and go through the e-learning materials and can learn from it. So, anywhere, wherever you are placed, you can learn if we are using these technologies with the help of the learner's needs. The session is designed to help you apply the phases of designing for preparing e-learning courses or programs with the help of different instructional design models. So, learners, please remember that this session pertains to instructional design for e-learning. Whenever we are saying instructional design for e-learning, what are those models which are used to design the e-learning courses or the programs, and what are the learning outcomes of this session? But revisit or recapitulate the concept of e-learning, discuss different instructional design models for designing e-learning, give examples of designing e-learning in different educational and training situations. Questions for discussion. So, these three questions may come to your mind which pertains to the title of this particular session. What is instructional design? What is e-learning? How to design e-learning using instructional design models. What is instructional design? Instructional design is a process for planning and designing instructional materials, print and electronic materials by using learning and instructional theories. It offers a blueprint for course designers to create instructional materials. Instructional design models which are used for designing e-learning courses are the Dick and Carey model, the Assure model. Dick, Carey and Carey model. In the Dick and Carey model, you can see the 9 steps. First, identify the instructional goals, and the first step itself is again divided into 2, that is conduct instructional analysis, analyze learners' needs and the context. Right, basing on this we have to write the performance objectives. Next step of this model, develop assessment strategies, then develop instructional strategies, then develop and select the content and design the material, then design and conduct summative assessment, then coming to the analyze the learner according to the learner's needs whether it is prepared or not. So, Dick and Carey model, which is the instructional systems design model which was stated by Dick and Carey for designing the e-learning programs or courses. So, whenever you are designing any e-learning course, Please do consider these 9 steps so that it will help you to get an effective e-learning course. And the other model, instructional design model, which is used for preparing e-learning courses or e-learning programs, is Assure model. The steps involved in Assure model are analyze the learner, state objectives, select methods, media and materials, utilize media and materials, require learners' participation, evaluate and revise. What is e-learning? This is to recapitulate or revise the previous session. So, we are linking whatever you have learnt from the previous session, just I am linking it or revisiting it very quickly so that we can be able to understand how the e-learning is, what is e-learning and how we have to design the e-learning with the help of different instructional design models. E-learning uses network information and communication technology in teaching and learning. E-learning involves educational processes and that utilize information and communication technologies to mediate synchronous as well as asynchronous learning and instructional activities. E-learning is accepted as a substitute for online learning, virtual learning, distributed learning, networked or web-based learning. What is e-learning? Again, E, the letter E stands for the word electronic. So, e-learning would incorporate all educational activities that are carried out by individuals or groups working online or synchronously or asynchronously via networked or standalone computers and other electronic devices. So, this is about e-learning. Now, let us see what are the other terminology we can use for e-learning: online learning, virtual learning, distributed learning, network and web-based learning. In the previous session also, we have focused upon these terminologies and again we are revisiting it. Now, types of e-learning activities, because we are planning to design a course using the instructional design models, as we should know what are the e-learning activities involved in different types of formats of e-learning courses. So, one is individualized self-paced e-learning online, second one individualized self-paced e-learning offline, third is group-based e-learning synchronously, fourth is group-based e-learning asynchronously. So, already I think the previous speaker must have said about what are those things, but just to revisit again, individualized self-paced e-learning online refers to situations where an individual learner is accessing learning resources such as a database or course content online through an internet or intranet. I am giving one example here also where the learner is studying alone or conducting some research. This individualized self-paced e-learning online is applicable. And offline, you know about this also. Then just to go through the other types, group-based e-learning, where you may include the text-based conferencing and one or two-way audio and video conferencing, and the last one is group-based e-learning asynchronously. Then this is about the types. So, when as a learner you are very clear about what are the different types of e-learning, so while designing the materials for e-learning using the ID models, you will be able to know whether you are preparing the material for a group of learners or for single learner, or whether to provide training or not, and what will the role of the mentor. Everything you will be able to decide if you know different types of e-learning. Then let us see instructional design in e-learning. This is the real focus of this particular session. E-learning can be delivered in 3 modes. 1. Using the web as a supplement to face-to-face instruction, using the web in a mixed mode with face-to-face instruction or distance learning scenario, and using web-based instruction as completely online with no face-to-face student or student-teacher interaction. Web-based instruction without face-to-face component. So, let us focus on this particularly because using web-based instruction as completely online without face-to-face component, the tasks for the instructional designer are: it allows training and learning opportunities to reach the learners or students just in time. The environment can facilitate shift from instructivist to constructivist learning, that is student directed learning. So, when you are designing the material student directed for student only, because where learner centered approach we are following and we are following the constructive approach, then how to design the material using ID models. So, let us see, designing e-learning requires grounding in pedagogy, an understanding of the subject to be taught, how the World Wide Web or WWW works. So, whenever you design e-learning material, please do consider these three main points, so that half of your work is done. Then coming to the different components. Key components for designing e-learning are: identify institutional demands, implementation, pedagogy and technology. So, whenever we are designing any material, whether it is institutional demands that we should have the e-learning, so and what type of type learners will be there, and then how to incorporate the instructional design model, we have to think about it. So, your institutional demands as well as the institutional learning environment helps you to design the e-learning course and materials. And for implementation also, you have to see what are the accessibility, what are the technology available to the learners, and for training purposes also we have to see about these four components for designing material. Now, let us see, already in the whenever we started that e-learning and instructional design for e-learning model, I said that there are three particular components. The last one where we said that the constructivist learning, which leads to self-directed learning, which leads to student-directed learning, which leads to learner-centered learning, and where we are saying that yes, instead of providing instruction to the learner or the student will construct the learning experiences with the help of their own learning, with the help of their own background, social background, then with the help of their learning backgrounds. So, what is this paradigm which helps us to design e-learning courses? First, objectives are written with student collaboration based on the student's need. All the students are unique and bring their own social understanding to learning context. These are the 2 points. Let us see what are the other points related to constructivist learning paradigm and e-learning. Third point, problems are solved when they have personal relevance to learners. Fourth, knowledge is individually and socially constructed. Learning can only be measured through direct observation and dialogue. So, this is about the constructive model. So, when we talk about the constructivist paradigm, let us see what are the web tools which we can use to perform the tasks. So, constructivist, there is a relationship between the constructivist tasks and the web tools. Whenever your task as an instructional designer is to establish the personal and group objectives and the goals, then there will be email and discussion group at the web tools. Discuss and debate ideas and receive feedback, then email and discussion groups, voice chat. Seek and collect information, web pages, search engines. Use of information and variables, then simulation and animation in the web. Then other types of constructive tasks and the web tools are organizing information in a coherent framework, software to analyze data, integrate different external information to internal conception, note taking, and generate or construct new information. So, one of the paradigms that when we say that in the constructive the learner constructs or generate new ideas and information, then what are the tools? The web tools are HTML editors, web page creation tools, word processors, etc. Then media creation tools are text, graphics and images, audio and video, animation and 3D models, communication tools, email, mailing list, discussion board and charts, and other e-learning design tools are also available. You can see that what are the other tools. We can see that when it is instructor mediated e-learning, then the tools will be the case studies can be very effective and video programs can be downloaded, so that the online time can be utilized for the online chat or online discussion with the peer group or with the mentor. So, and the graphic illustrations can also be downloaded, can also be put in the asynchronous e-learning package. Then what are the other tools like you can have the index scheme, you can also develop material based on the characteristics of HTML, and you can have you can also provide hyperlinks. So, these are other design tools which we can use for designing instructional materials. Then you can try your module or print based format, design the message properly, then key graphics, audio files and video files as small as possible. Then the third outcome of this session is how that we are going to provide you a case, that is the design framework for the program PGCMRR is an eclectic model which includes the 3 learning theories and their basic instructional approaches. So, with the help of a case we are presenting you, so that whenever you are designing your courses or programs, you can follow this approach or this eclectic model which is designed by Mishra Chanjay in the year 2002. So, this model involves the 3 major theories: behaviorism, cognitivism and constructivism. And what are the instructional approaches involved in behaviorism? Let us see here. And this is the framework for e-learning environment. You can read it and you can see that objective based course units, self-assessment online, then what are the learner guide, what are the things provided during for constructivism and for cognitivism, how there is a relationship how the framework is designed, you can see to it. Then what are the instructional approaches? The instructional approaches involved in behaviorism are: instruction is designed to promote individual pacing and progress. Instruction is designed using a task analysis which break down the behavior into a sequence. So, for this, what will be the task? So, whenever you are designing the course, your lessons or modules should have explicit objectives in behavioral terms, use of self-assessment questions and step-to-step description of learning materials in small chunks. So, these are the learning online approaches which are based on the theory of behaviorism. And you see now cognitivism, what are the instructional approaches, and for the designing your e-learning course, you can have the instruction, provide instruction to the learner to learn. There should be peer assessment, information seeking through search engines should be provided. If it is constructive based on the constructivism theories, then what are the approaches or discussion forums should be there, and you should have email transfer among the learner, group projects we can have, streaming media, provision for social activity on the net. So, this is about the instructional approach and the online approaches which we can adapt while designing e-learning courses and programs following these theories and an eclectic model of designing courses and materials based on e-learning. Then what are the instructional strategies? Instructional strategies which we can use for designing the courses: information presentation, decision making, guidance and collaboration, then drill and practice, feedback, reflection, articulation and creation, discovery and assessment. Collaborative model, and already we have discussed the eclectic model. Now, let me share with you collaborative model for designing e-learning courses and programs. The collaborative model for designing e-learning courses is based on constant interaction between instructional designer, content experts and support personnel or technical. And 6 steps for designing e-learning are: familiarize yourself with what is available and do not reinvent the wheel. Prepare a storyboard before you actually go for development. So, these are the steps stated by Weston and Baker, and so that's why the first step you have to familiarize with what type of contents are available on the net and what type of contents are there, and so that you should not again reinvent or again repeat the same thing. And before preparing any e-learning course, please prepare a storyboard and which will help you for developing the materials. Then focus on content and instruction. The third step for designing e-learning is related to content and instruction, where again we have to identify the audience or who are the learners or who are the trainees, prepare objectives in behavioral terms as stated in the behavioristic school of thought, identify instructional tools and methods, plan for assessment strategies and give clear instruction and navigation opportunities. Other 3 steps are collaborate and access expertise, which refers to teamwork of instructional designer, content experts or subject matter experts, graphic designers and web programmers. So, web programmers and graphic designers, they are technical personals, and the content experts, they are the subject matter experts. So, for content and instruction, there should be a teamwork between the three professionals. Test for usability and pilot testing with potential users, assess the value added for meeting learners' objectives. Then designing an e-learning course. Just to summarize the whole thing, whatever we have studied in the Dick Carey model, Assure model, and also we studied in the athletic model, also we studied in the 6 steps given by Becker, where we are saying that how to design the e-learning courses using different types of models with the help of theories of learning, with the help of different instructional approaches, with the help of different instructional strategies. So, while designing an e-learning course as a learner, please focus on these 6 steps mainly: instructional objectives, instructional content, instructional methods, instructional media, instructional delivery system and evaluation. So, if you will refer to your Assure model, then you will see there is similarities between these steps and the Assure model. So, for designing e-learning course, this model also you can use Assure model. With the help of Assure model, you can design the things. Now, what are the phases of designing e-learning? Different phases of designing e-learning are analyze, design, develop, implement and evaluation. And let us see each phase: analysis phase, needs analysis, learner analysis and technical analysis. Again, design phase, writing learning outcomes, entry behavior, instructional strategies, learning objects. Design phase, other 4 steps are media utilization, design assessment strategies, design the interface and usability. In the development phase, we have 3 components: authoring, storyboarding and prototyping. In the implementation stage, you have to see that we have to stick to the time schedule, and we have to see when to launch the e-courses or e-programs and prepare the students with instruction, select trainees and students and also facilitators and trainers, decide the delivery platform, maintenance of the schedule and develop technical support system. Evaluation phase, it refers to your formative and summative things. So, with this, then what happens that when we did the whole thing, that what happens here, just to say the whole thing in a very briefly, and the summary of the whole presentation is that today we discussed about what is e-learning and what are the different types of e-learning, and also there are different terminologies, interchangeable terminologies of e-learning, which you can be well versed so that you can use it. And we focus on mainly two theories models, two models of instructional design and three theories of learning. The two models of instructional design, which with the help of graphics we have discussed here, that the Dick and Carey model and the Assure model. And you can see while designing the courses of e-learning and programs of e-learning, how these steps of Dick and Carey model are also utilized. Then with the help of an eclectic model and with the help of one program PGC MRR, we discuss how an eclectic model for designing e-learning courses we used, based on the three theories of learning, that is behaviorism, cognitivism and constructivism. And based on these three theories, we discussed about the instructional approaches and the online approaches. And based on this also we discussed about instructional strategies, and we also discussed about what are the e-learning tools. We have provided you different types of e-learning tools which you can use for designing the e-learning courses. And at the last we can say that what are the different phases of designing e-learning. The different phases of designing e-learning are analyze, design, develop, implement and evaluate, ADDI approach. So based on this analyze, design, develop and implement and evaluate phases of designing e-learning, how we can prepare the course materials or how can we prepare the e-learning courses and programs. We also discuss what are the stages involved in the analyze stage, where we have to analyze the learner and we have to analyze the content and we have to analyze the need of the students and we have to analyze the technical analysis also we have to do. So when we analyze this, then only we will get some data so that we can design the material. And also in the design phase also, based on the behavioristic approach, how we have to prepare the writing the learning outcomes and how to assess the entry behavior. Instructional strategies also we have provided you a list of instructional strategies, and you know about the learning objects. The learning objects involve the components and one objectives and also components, content and assessment strategies. So with this also you can have the design the templates and modules so that you can prepare the e-learning components. Then what type of media you are going to use, whether print or audio or video or any like teleconference also with two-way audio or one-way video or World Wide Web or networking or online thinking. Whatever media you are going to utilize, we have to decide during the design phase. And the second one, the design assessment strategies, whether you are having the short answer type or you have the essay type or you have the multiple choice items. All these things we have to think during the design phase. Then design the interface and usability of the e-learning course and the program you have to also think during the design phase. Then the development phase, storyboarding all has different types of components like your text, then your audio things and video things, graphics, animations, visuals and video clips, audio clips, everything you have to see during the storyboarding so that it will be helpful for you to provide the inputs. Then during the prototyping, which will help you to know the pilot testing which do with the help of this you can know actual timings and about the design content and whichever the appropriate content, everything you can know with the help of prototypings. Then implementation stage, that where you have to prepare the student with the instruction and the training and facilities will be there. Then you have to also see what type of technical support system we are going to provide during the implementation stage. Then formative assessment and summative assessment. Formative evaluation refers to when we arrange for or when we conduct any assessment while the e-learning courses are developed, during the e-learning courses are developed, then it is known as formative assessment or formative phase of evaluating the course material or contents. And summative is at the end of the course or at the end of the program when we conduct evaluation to know the efficiency, effectiveness and the usability, objectivity and the quality of a e-course or e-program, then it is known as summative evaluation. So, now again coming to the other parts. So, already we have discussed about the ADDI approach in detail, then how e-learning refers to the technology based learning with the help of your technology, pedagogy and also content and instruction, and by how it is grounded in pedagogy and how there is technical support and how it is technology based. We have to think, we have to see also while designing the materials. Then how e-learning is instructive led or not, it is not instructivist, rather it is the constructivist approach we use, that is we have discussed with the help of a framework. Then the advantages and disadvantages which are discussed in the previous session. Now coming to the other points which I would like to highlight here, that is related to your because we are going to design the materials with the help of these mainly two models. I am giving you the examples only, and there are so many models which you can use. The so many other models of instructional designs are there also, but for your convenience here we are using only these two models, but you can also use other models like your. So, we have these two models here which refers to. So, now coming summarizing the whole thing is that summarizing the instructional design for e-learning, coming to the last part of this presentation is that how with the help of dig, carry and carry model we can design the e-learning materials or e-learning courses. So, where we, just to summarize it, there are 9 steps which you can see from this graphic, and this graphic focuses on the 9 steps of instructional design model. And for designing the e-course, how we have to identify the instructional goal, and based on the instructional goal we have to identify the instructional objectives, and we have, for this we have to conduct instructional analysis and we have to analyze the learner and the context. So, what type of learning environment we have to provide, and who are our learners, who will be taking this e-course, everything we have to discuss and decide at in this stage only. So, the design stage will help you to know who are our learners, for whom we are designing the material and what is the context. Then coming to the basing on the objectives, we have to decide the content and the assessment strategies. So, basing on these objectives which are based on the behavioristic approach, then we have to design the assessment instruments. And while designing the instructional strategies, there are a list of, so when we are coming to the 5th step of instructional design model, then please go to the instructional strategies. So, please correlate this both the stages, develop instructional strategies, how it is used in the dig and carry model. So, if you will see the instructional strategies here, it will help you to correlate the whole thing, where we say that yes, these are our instructional strategies, and these instructional strategies are used on the 5th stage of instructional design model of dig and carry, where we focus information, how to present the information, what type of decision making components we have to use, how to provide guidance to the learner, and what type of collaboration will be there within the students, and what type of drill and practice component we have to use, and how to provide feedback, and what will be their reflection and discovery and assessment. Then we have to see all these things, instructional strategies, when we are at the 5th stage of Dick and Carey model. So, when this Dick and Carey model says about this, when you are on the 5th stage, please refer to the instructional strategies. Then how to then develop and select instructional methods and tools. We have already provided you what are the tools and methods used for designing e-materials. So, again you refer to the tools, wave tools. During the constructivist paradigm, what are the wave tools we use, and accordingly you can design the instructional materials. Then we have developed and conduct formative assessment. Already I have said that in the ADDI approach also, at the end we have the evaluation component, where it comprises two types of evaluation. One is formative evaluation, second one is the summative evaluation. So, the 7th step, so the 8th step of your this material says about, with Dick and Carey says about the 7th step, that what are the formative evaluation, then we have the summative evaluation. Suppose your materials are prepared, then prototype things we can see it and we can have the pilot testing. If those are appropriate according to the need of the learners and according to the need of the context, then it is well and fine. Otherwise, again revise the instruction. So, your Dick, Carey and Carey model also says about how the revising the instruction and how to make it more learner friendly also, it says about the whole thing. So, this is about the whole things which I have discussed today in the presentation, where we said that coming to the, where we have focused on the summary part of this. So, in the summary we discussed about the, just to summarize the whole thing, again I am sharing with you that with the help of Dick and Carey model, how we discuss it, with an example of a program PG-MCRR, how we discuss an eclectic model, and how you can utilize the SUR model with the help of ADDI approach also. And we have also different model, 6 steps model also we have discussed here, so that which will help you to design the e-courses and the e-programs. With this, we are coming to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much, students.